so dear. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year? In daylights, in sunsets, in midnights, in cups of coffee, in inches, in miles, in laughter, in strife. In 525,600 minutes. How do you measure a year in the life? How about love? How about love? How about love? Measuring love. Seasons of love. Seasons of love. 525,600 minutes. 525,000 journeys to plan. 525,600 minutes. How do you measure the life of a woman or a man? In truth that she learned, or in times that he cried, in bridges deeper, or the way that she died. It's time now to sing out, though the story never ends. Let's celebrate, remember a year in the life of friends. Remember the love.
We gather today to remember with joy the Kiwanians of the New Jersey District who have passed away since we last met at convention. Please bow your heads if willing for the invocation. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross once said, quote, "It's only when we truly know and understand that we have limited time on earth and that we have no way of knowing when our time is up, that we will begin to live each day to the fullest, as if it was the only one we had." End of quote. As we remember these special Kiwanians, may we strive to live each day as if it is the only one we have, so that we too can leave our mark on the world and fond memories in the hearts of those who know and love us. Amen. The first reading is Desiderata by Max Ehrmann. I believe its message about a life well lived is as timely and appropriate today as it was when he first wrote it in 1927. I invite you to close your eyes and listen. Go placidly among the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even to the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexatious to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs. for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. At this time, I would ask you all to recite in unison the prayer, "Let Me Go," which should be on the screen in front of you. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? At this time, I would like to turn the program over to past international trustee Lance in City.
Dream that you dare to to why, oh why can't
You know, when I was first asked to do this, I thought immediately of past Governor Jim McGeary and how high he has set the bar. And I found Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 1 through 8, A Time for Everything, as an appropriate reading. It's a cherished Bible passage, often quoted at funerals and memorial services. Tradition tells us that the book of Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon toward the end of his reign. Contained in one of the poetry and wisdom books of the Bible, this particular passage lists 14 opposites, a common element in Hebrew poetry indicating completion. While each time and season may seem random, the underlying significance in the poem denotes a divinely chosen purpose for everything we experience in our lives. These familiar lines offer a comforting reminder of God's sovereignty. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. And now we will see a listing of those who have passed as a recognition of the deceased.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Mulhall, and I'd like to share a few words and reflections on a number of the individuals that passed this last year, great Kiwanis members. All the reflections I have are on members that I've met and known through the years, but there's one that I'll be starting with that I did not have the pleasure of meeting, but have become very close and comfortable knowing this person, and I'd like to give some insights. And that's Dr. Cornelius E. Gaither. His ancestry back to the 1500s. He was a member of the original Swedesboro Club, joined in 1962, and was believed to be the first African-American to ever join Kiwanis 58 years ago. Cornelius was raised in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and there was a school directly behind his home called Auditorium School, but it was an all-white school. He was unable to attend. He had to go across town to Gay Street School, where he attended grammar school. Although he played with all the white kids in the evening, weekends, and summers, until he went to 12th grade, which he actually skipped and went on to Lincoln University. But after 12th grade, he returned to walk with all of the kids at the auditorium school because it was now integrated. And in his own words, he said, no one has done it before. No one had done it before, and no one had done it after. Cornelius went on to be a surgeon. He was in the Tuskegee Air Force. At that time, it was an all-black Air Force. And he also was a dentist. He followed in the shoes of his father, who was a dentist. And he used to treat the pilots for fractured jaws when they had accidents. This all comes from Rutgers Oral History, 2014. And at the end of the interview, it's a long, extended interview of his life and is highly recommended. They asked if he had any additional comments, and he said yes. And these are the two paragraphs that he read. I am a life member of the Kiwanis International and the very first Black in the national organization. Locally, I was a member of the Swedesboro, New Jersey Club. I was also the first Black on the staff of Underwood Memorial Hospital in Woodbury, New Jersey, and also the first on Elmer Hospital in New Jersey, leaving in 1968. One last caveat, those two hospitals merged with each other and then merged with a third. And it wasn't until the third that there was a Black on the staff. So I was very moved by his story and very pleased that he was part of the Kiwanis history and part of the current, recent Swedesboro Club. I'd like to switch gears now and ask everybody just to look to your left for a moment. And then if you would, look to your right. And as you look around, I still don't believe that Barry Werfel is not with us. I just had a conversation with my wife the other day, and we just can't believe that Barry is no longer with us. So I look around jokingly, but in a way, he's spiritually with us constantly. And I'd like to share some thoughts about Barry. Many you know, many you may not know. I learned over time. Barry was born in Nova Scotia, and at the age of 3 months was adopted by Jack and Jeanette Werfel. But at age 19, he started the first Little League football team in Roseland. Then he went on to coach it for 25 years. He's been married to Celeste Werfel almost nearly 52 years. But I have great memories of Barry, aside from all the wonderful things he did. He was one of the funniest people I ever met with. I used to love sitting next to him at the board meetings because he knew everything about everything. If someone was going up to talk, he'd say, oh my God, he'd touch his head. He knew what was going to transpire, how it was going to transpire, and had insights on everything. And as many of you may know, if you saw him in a room, he always gave you the little finger, come over, I want to talk to you. and he would be all the way on the other side, but somehow I always saw that little finger waving me over. But he'd give me a big hug and a kiss, and he'd say, "We got to talk. We have to talk." But Barry was just wonderful, fun to be with. He was enormously helpful with me with Eliminate. We shared rides. We went down to the Ewing Club. We spoke about our family and our history. And I just thought Barry was so engaging and so funny. I think as you reflect on Barry, not only of all of his wonderful attributes, but you'll see he was very engaging and just a joy to be with. I'd like to move on now to Anton Tony Kaiser, 1987, 1988 international president. He was from New York at that time, and then years later moved to New Jersey, but became extremely active in the Ewing Club. Those of you who have met Tony Kaiser and his wife Mim of 70 years, believe it or not, 70 years, always by his side, and just a man of class. Every time you saw him, great dignity, great confidence about Kiwanis, supported Eliminate enormously and with great gratitude, and I miss him dearly. Also, Brian J. Campbell from the Northwood Linwood Club. One of the gentlemen I would only see on occasion because of being down South Jersey and me being up north, but always a firm handshake. Pleasure to see you. Really knew he was happy to see you and spoke very positive words all the time. Don't ever recall hearing a negative comment from Brian Campbell. Always willing to help, always dedicated, 30 years with Kiwanis. Then there was Len Sunshine. I can't think of a better name for Len Sunshine. Just looking at him made me smile, joy to see him. He was married to his wife, Alice, on Valentine's Day in 1965. And I met him a number of times at Friendly's in Morris Plains, which was kind of funny, but it was when he would be meeting with his wife who suffered from a long illness. And it was such a pleasure to see with him and talk to him for a few minutes. And when you went to the Randolph Club or an inner club, you always saw Len Sunshine. Low key, smile, and you knew that you were at a Kiwanis meeting when you saw him. Just a pleasure to be with. Another gentleman, Corrado Gigante. What a great name. Active member of the Glen Ridge Club. Very kind person. One of those people that you saw at a myriad of events, yet he had no title. He would be at a district convention. He would be at an event for fundraising. Yet he didn't really have to be there. He did it because he wanted to be there. But very engaging person, just wonderful to Kiwanis. The next two I have personal reflections on because they were from my Greater Parsippany Club. The first is Mimi Letts. Mimi was a 3-time Democratic mayor in a mostly Republican town, Parsippany. And she was very active with our club at every event. And she shared something that always stuck with me and mentioned it a couple of times. She said, we always focus on national politics, but local politics has the most effect on people's lives. Your taxes, your water, your sewage. It was so true and enlightening. Then there was J. Robert Keller, became a very good friend of mine, dedicated to Kiwanis Fire Department for nearly 30 years, had a kidney transplant, received it from his best friend, who happened to be his wife, Connie. Even when he was ill in very late stages last year, he would arrive around 6:30, 6:45 to set up for a 7:15 a.m. meeting. And we had a lot of banners in our club. Those of you who've come, you see a lot of banners there. So it was a lot of work and just really, really dedicated. And many of you also are aware of a Touch a Truck. He was one of the big starters of that, where children can walk and go on trucks and sports cars and you name it. It's just enormously successful. And then there's Jim McGeary, the voice of God. So unassuming, past governor. I tried to actually get a recording of his, which unfortunately I couldn't. As Lance had mentioned, you just can't top or compete, or it just, you miss him so dearly. He's just so wonderful hearing his voice. And after he spoke year after year at our memorial, you always came away feeling better about yourself, better about Kiwanis, and better about society overall. So we miss him very dearly. And I was only able to touch on a few of them, but all that have passed have been very special to all of us in Kiwanis. So I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of this memorial service. And if you like, I'll move on to the benediction. It's my favorite, one of my favorites, the Irish blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sunshine warm upon your face, the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you.
That day